Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, I'm just going to cast back on this short-term let's issue that they have, where so few people, only 90 in the whole of Edinburgh, for example, but across the whole country, fewer than 1 in 5 B&B owners have registered. And there seems to be a major problem that is as a direct result of basically short-sightedness by the SNP. And when I say short-sightedness, I literally mean short-sightedness. They can only see so far. I'm sure that they cannot see any further north than, say, maybe Falkirk or Stirling at most. Let's say Stirling is about as far north as these people can see. Because they bring these rules in about how various safety things have to be done. You know, gas checks and things like that. And you can appreciate the safety requirements for gas. Okay, I accept the gas one. But all the other things that they're trying to impose and all these rules and regulations. And that's okay if you're living in the central belt or thereabouts around that area. And you've got lots of tradies in the little vans running around able to fix things. What they're not looking at, of course, is that vast empty wilderness north of, say, Stirling, which has a lot of tourism, but very few tradesmen, and therefore these little rural bed and breakfast places and little lets places and that can't get the maintenance they required in time to be able to conform to the rules and regulations of these licences. Again, it is that sort of central belt sightedness of the SNP. They don't look anywhere else across Scotland. They have no idea what's going on because none of them have ever left the confines of their little safety corridor, have they? Anyway, we'll take a look at this article, see what's going on, and see why so many rural communities are in deep problems because of the lack of tradesmen relating to these short-term lets. Here goes. Now let's not beat around the bush. I know that a vast proportion of the number of people who are my very good regular viewers, whether you've subscribed or not, hint, will be in that central region, you know, or around there in the aura of the central region, simply because that's where most of you are going to likely live. Sure, you're going to get Dundee, Aberdeen, Inverness, 3 other sort of big places not in the central belt, but near as damn it similar to the central belt. But you've got to think about all those that live out in, you know, the wilderness, if you will, in the small communities, in the small towns, the villages that are in the rural settings, for whom tourism is the very, very lifeblood of their annual income for most of these people. And indeed, tourism as a sector across the whole of Scotland is massive. It is a massive earner for the nation. And when you have policies designed to damage one of the nation's top income-bringing sectors, you have to query why these people are doing it. But of course, they are all looking, as I say, at the central belt sitism of where there's plenty of tradesmen, electricians, plumbers, and whatever. Out in these rural areas, not only are there not so many, but also they're very few and far between. And so it's not easy for these tradesmen to go off just nip into the next village or whatever and do these jobs. Sometimes it is a considerable drive, as you know. And it is ultimately massively damaging the tourism industry through deliberate policy. And you wonder why they would do it. But anyway, we'll have a look at this piece. I don't know, like I say, for most of you it won't matter. For some it will. But you've got to look at it in the round. Why damage an entire industry? You know. So, tradesman shortage means rural B&B owners can't meet the SNP's looming licence deadline. There are only 3 gas-safe engineers on Skye, and many other rural and remote locations face similar challenges as B&B and short-term let hosts struggle to get their properties ready for the 1st of October. And there's a picture of Skye, Portree. Short-term let owners are unable to comply with the SNP's new licensing scheme due to a shortage of tradesmen in rural parts of Scotland, and only around 1 in 5 of Scotland's 32,000 operators have applied for a licence ahead of the October the 1st deadline. And this is just the B&B operators. This is not all the other places that do things, have rooms available, short-term lets and things. This is just the B&B operators. Many owners are struggling to find enough gas-safe engineers and electricians to carry out the checks required. B&B hosts and homeowners are renting out their properties on sites like Airbnb will be breaking the law if they fail to comply in time. Now, they've got no chance, have they? I mean, we're talking, 3 weeks away? 32,000 properties? It isn't going to happen, is it? And so you're going to have all these properties off the market. Gone. Now, you could argue it's end of season. Well, yeah, but there's a lot of people that come up for the Scottish season as well. And there's no guarantee that these properties will even be done in time for, say, April next year, the beginning of the next season, Easter and all. It's the sort of thing, it's the bad ideas that the party has, the SNP has, without thinking things through, and without prepping, and without giving suitable time frames. This is the problem. They don't give people a long enough time frame. Anyway, mandatory national rules for those seeking a licence include obtaining an annual gas safety certificate, an electrical safety inspection, and a Legionella risk assessment, as well as carrying out repairs to the furniture. The Legionella is an interesting one because if you go air source heating or heat pump heating, the water doesn't get hot enough to kill Legionella. So there's an interesting thing as well. But that's a separate video for a separate day. Furious operators say the Edinburgh-centric rules drawn up by the Scottish Government completely fail to take into account the shortage of qualified individuals to actually carry out the work once you get outside the central belt. And that's what I'm saying. You have that beltism, if you will. Sort of that the belt and the aura around it, the sphere of influence around it. As I say, probably no further north than, say, Stirling at the most northerly point. Dumfries at the bottom, effectively, isn't it? And you're there. Anyway, for example, there are already 3 gas-safe engineers registered on the Isle of Skye, which is a short-term let hotspot and one of the most popular tourist destinations in Britain. David Weston, chairman of the Scottish Bed and Breakfast Association, told the Daily Mail, "You have to get things like energy inspection certificates, but one of the problems is there aren't enough qualified electricians to do that in some parts of Scotland." We showed that there aren't enough policemen, and that's far more important. And there was 2 police cars covering the whole of Scotland for one night last month. 2 between midnight and 4 in the morning or something. 2 police cars in the whole of Scotland. In particular, places like some of the islands, they're rushed off their feet and just can't do the number of properties in the time available. So people aren't able to get it done and are going to be forced to be criminals as of the 1st of October. And the nationwide licence scheme is largely in response to the problems in Edinburgh, where there is a crippling lack of housing due to the number of properties being rented out to tourists as short-term lets. Well, build more properties for housing. That isn't the issue. You're doing this one-size-fits-all, and it's always wrong. Concerns have been raised that the rest of the country is paying the price for tackling the problems in a small number of urban hotspots, just said. Louise Dickens, a self-catering host from the capital, who's been campaigning for a pause to the licensing scheme, said, "There will be a seismic impact if this goes ahead. All you need to do is look at take-up figures to know that calamity lies ahead." On difficulties with getting the certification in place to allow an application to be made, she added, "On Skye, there are 3 gas-safe engineers, so that is a problem. I actually didn't realise the extent that Scotland is Edinburgh-centric. I don't think they understand what is going on at all in rural life. They don't. You go to the likes of, say, Oban, and it is a different planet from Edinburgh. It is completely removed. And Edinburgh probably don't even know Oban exists." She carried on, "If they did, they would have made this less complicated. Was this legislation set out to take out 30 party flats in Edinburgh? In fact, it's going to take out a whole sector." Figures released by the Scottish Government yesterday showed that 6,323 applications for short-term lets have been received, with 3,192 granted so far. 3,192 granted certs. Edinburgh alone has 90,000 properties that are ready to be rented out. Edinburgh, 90,000. A similar number in Glasgow. And so far, in the whole of the country, they've had 3,000 successful certs. I'm not one to make predictions. Well, yeah, I am. Okay, I am. I'm one to make predictions. And I'm certainly going to make a prediction here. It's going to be chaos. It's going to crash and burn. And it's going to destroy an entire sector unless something is done. Anyway, I shall stop there and come up. So, how do we square the circle? How do we ensure there are enough houses for people to live in and around Edinburgh and Glasgow, whilst maintaining a strong bed and breakfast or, tourist-friendly culture across the whole of the country? Well, as someone who was in the building trade for 35 years, 30 odd years, I will say there's this small option I would consider. And that is, dotted around Edinburgh, is an awful lot of open space. Build, let's say 30,000 houses. Just build small little communities. Don't build estates. Build small village-size communities. Dot them all around. Share them out equally. But build about 20 to 30,000 homes in small village settings all around Edinburgh. That provides 30,000 homes for people. That's, let's say, 100,000 people homed in these little villages. And as long as they've got good transport link into Edinburgh, people will move out. And that will provide homes. And you can still maintain your lets, your short-term lets, in the city, which generates far more money. How come I can solve that in 10 minutes? And these people can't solve it at all. It's because they are morons and they lack foresight and the ability to think. And they seem to think that one size fits all. Well, what's good for the centre of Edinburgh is not going to be any good at all for Oban or Inverness or Octobloody They can't see that because they don't know these places even exist. Troon, where's that? They haven't got it. Strathy Point, I've heard of that. No, they haven't heard of it. Tongue, where's that? Never heard of these places. Never heard of them. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, and I hope you do, then please do hit the subscribe button. And if you don't like what you've seen, but you're still here, well done, and I thank you for watching. And still hit the subscribe button. It may improve. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and remember, the SNP are morons and they'll soon be voted out. And more of that in a video later today. Bye.